presidential aspirant of the NPP, Kennedy Agyapong, says Dr. Bawumia and the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the party, Wontumi, will collapse the party. He was speaking at a showdown walk in Kumasi yesterday, actually on Saturday, September 30. This was the original comment which led to Mr. Nchubuesiaku's press conference where he responded to this. And mind you, Kennedy Agyapong is a member of parliament who's aspiring to be president or flag bearer of the NPP. But Nchubuesiaku is the party's Ashanti regional chairperson. So here's the original statement made by the flag bearer aspirant.
2020, 2016, who didn't go because I was in Ashanti region. 2020, Mama Ashanti region. How many votes? And I'm losing. Okay, I'll be all good party one. And you won't to me, Wontumi and the Bawumia, who NPP party. And then me, who America and a new party, no. But no more near, I will know and who the good party. My young Chilaho, and who good party, no. Nay, catch it over. Over meeting, so much on you. I have it. Over mistake. There'll be an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. Tobo, of the trial, or to be catching any club for us, why a ceremony to young tomorrow, why a ceremony to young tomorrow. Now, what do you are Kania, who Pharisee of the Castle, we a Christiania, who Pharisee of the Castle, a Christiania. Name top Muslims who want some to say, I know when you are a Muslim community, you will go to jail. You will go to jail. It is a new man, my young maximum before. I will want to be a quarter. I will not play tribal politics. But if it becomes necessary, I'll give them bombshell. So, now we play religious card. We play tribal card. Number one bombshell.
So that was on the 30th of September at a showdown walk in Kumasi. It was a public event. He spoke, and I'm sure those of you understood. It's basically accusing Dr. Bawumia and Wontumi of destroying the NPP. He says their performance in 2020 was not good because he did not campaign there, but that in 2016 he campaigned in Ashanti region. Now I listened to the press conference that Mr. Wontumi gave. It wasn't even a press conference. He just addressed the press and he didn't take any questions. He started by talking about the voter registration numbers, claiming that Ashanti region had 92% and that they mobilized people to register and they were doing well. And then he commented on the Kennedy Agyapong thing and said Kennedy Agyapong should stop castigating and insulting people, and that he respects the NPP and that if he keeps threatening him, he will cause his arrest. And then he says, okay, he was part of the campaign in 2016 and 2020. But if Kennedy said his absence in 2020 caused the defeat of the NPP, what about the central region? So it was a lot of things. Let's hear excerpts of that from the Ashanti Regional Channel of the New Patriotic Party.
You show down any adeno and the manin trap. So yes, now 13 me be wa meme yacho. I have football and I'm a man because why I saw Ahmed Sure ammonia dear swelly as a one.
I will cause your arrest if you threaten me again. I will not sit aloof and watch you threaten me. This is an advice to you. Be mindful of your utterances. Be minded also that the flag bearership elections is just around the corner.
Central region, so send in the city. Central region, so not my own to be or let me know. Until the Mestra want to say, Kennedy, can you open to me? Na can you open to me? Now, so what me a friend and then they are no, I on the 4th. It's exactly 1 month. Now, you're quite got the Masamu Baby, Ezekiel chapter 18, verse 22.
So those were, I'm not playing the full thing. I'm just sort of setting it up for a conversation because I feel this is something you can't ignore. To have a flag bearer aspirant and then the chairman of the Ashanti region of the NPP engaging in a war of words Pretty serious. Now, the campaign team of Kennedy then held a press conference, like probably less than an hour later. So this Wontumi thing was around 2:00, and our correspondent was there. And now the Kennedy team then also replies. William Kusi, Asante Regional Chairman of the campaign team for Kennedy Agyapong, also had his turn, and he also spoke some.
We believe that if the party has executive members, so national executive members who are well-meaning, who are determined to make sure that the party progresses, they will pay attention to some of this misconduct and deal with it. And this is what our candidate had opportunity in Kumasi and spoke of. He has also mentioned that he would cause the arrest of our candidate. And I want to take time to deal with this issue. I'll call it a bluff. And say that, and dare him to arrest our candidate. We are daring him. Because before Wontumi, there were men.
Yes.
Typical Asante men who won battles.
Yes.
When I say typical Asante, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Not aliens.
Yes.
Who won battles for Asante.
Yes.
And the generation is not extinct. So you should be careful. As much as we respect him and his office, you should be careful and mindful of what he says. Because we are ready. Our candidate said that an eye for an eye. I hope he heard it. We mean it.
Yes.
I'm reiterating, we mean it. And so he should dare arrest him. If there's anybody who should be arrested, he should be the first.
Yes. Yes.
Number one, have you ever heard of a regional chairman of any region slapping a sitting parliamentary candidate?
No.
Wontumi is on record to have slapped a sitting MP. And he's walking free on the streets of Kumasi. Kuala Samankwa.
Yes.
If it is worth arresting people, he should be the first to be arrested. More so, if you read the Agyapong document, you will not be surprised that Wontumi is making such pronouncement. Because at page 21 of the document, it reads, I want to quote verbatim so that you would understand the second paragraph about the cease line. It is important for a dossier to be prepared on him and deliberately, he's talking about Kennedy Agyapong, leaked through and deliberately leaked it through our friends in the opposition who would call for his prosecution. So already there is a plan to prepare a dossier of our candidate, whether true or not. And then they will leak it to the opposition, and the opposition would call for his prosecution, and then he will be arrested. Now he couldn't wait for the opposition to do. Wontumi himself has started it, and he's calling upon the Ghana police to arrest our candidate so that they can prosecute the Agyapong document. I am making this statement and saying to the whole world and Ghana that we are aware of the document, and we have read it line by line.
Yes.
And we know why Alan Martin could not go the full length of this contest.
Yes.
Because it is also found in page 2 of the same document why he should not win the election.
Yes. Yeah.
And so, Wontumi believes that we are one family and one party. And I believe that because of that, he should measure his utterances. Kennedy Agyapong has never insulted anybody.
Yes.
He has made a point. And interestingly, all the good things he said about Asante region, the chairman never heard any one of them.
William Kusi is Asante Regional campaign spokesperson for Kennedy Agyapong. So this is really, I'm sure if you tune to Kumasi radio this morning, this will be the big topic. Let me go to the Asante Regional capital and speak to Eddie Opon. Eddie, thanks for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning, Bernard.
Must have been a busy day for you. You obviously covered the Wontumi press conference, and then you also had to cover Mr. Kusi's conference as well. What is the background to this? Is it the showdown walk in Kumasi that led to this, or has there always been bad blood between Kennedy and Wontumi prior to even this showdown walk?
And so, over the years, they even appear on various radio stations together and campaign for the NPP and all that. They appear to be good friends. That's on air what appears as to be based on how they speak on radio and all that. They appear to be very good friends. But getting to the latter part of the that's the internal contest, that's the presidential primaries, that's where the disagreements actually came in. And so, in fact, this latest one, the trigger has to do with the showdown walk that Kennedy's team organized in Kumasi on Saturday, that's 30th September. And so, when Kennedy mounted the stage, he made a lot of comments, but there were specific comments that he made that were directed towards Wontumi in particular. And so, first, he actually made a comment about the fact that Wontumi, that following the resignation of Alan Shemati, Wontumi spoke about it on his radio station, and he sought to downplay the impact that the resignation will have on the party, and even sought to downplay the relevance of Alan within the party. And so Kennedy actually said that that's unacceptable, and so he was even trying to trace the history behind Wontumi's Wontumi's kind of legacy he's trying to have within the NPP, saying that root has to do with Alan. He says that Wontumi was an Alan boy, and so Alan actually introduced him to the party, and so Kennedy, convinced Wontumi to be an Akufo-Addo boy. And so for Wontumi to make such comments, he feels those ones are unacceptable and that he shouldn't have actually made such comments. He is saying that based on how the party is structured, Wontumi has become overly powerful, and that he alleged that Wontumi and the Vice President, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, and then that they are trying to collapse the party. That's according to Kennedy. And so he's saying that Wontumi and Dr. Bawumia have actually turned the National Council of the NPP into a hooliganism group, not specifically something that he said. And so these were the comments that he made, and specifically, he also made some comments that Wontumi is actually going against his own people, as the Ashantis, and that now he's supporting Dr. Bawumia. And so, based on the actions that Wontumi has been engaging in recent times, Kennedy, is ready to face Wontumi, and that Wontumi cannot say he's a man more than him, and so he's ready to face him, and that whatever he has to do, he will give him showdown. And so, based on that kind of threat, and even the fact that he says whatever amount that he alleged, that whatever amount that Wontumi has been offered to be part of Dr. Bawumia's team, Kennedy, was offered something much higher than that, including withdrawing his interest in becoming the flag bearer to be a running mate to Dr. Bawumia. So that's what he alleged, that he has even been offered much higher. And so he is actually not going to sit down for Wontumi to say certain things against him. So that was basically it. And so were that threat that if Wontumi feels he's a man more than him, he will also show Wontumi, and so Wontumi should not even try. And so that was what triggered Wontumi's press conference. But in fact, yesterday with the press conference, what was told was that it was basically the NPP's reaction after the limited voter registration exercise. But just after they talked about it, Wontumi veered off and then really specifically started addressing the issues that Kennedy raised. And so he is saying that he's not taking the threat from Kennedy lightly, and he cited Ahmed Swale, that shortly after Ahmed Swale was threatened by Kennedy, he died, and so he's not. So once there's any other threat, he will take a legal action against him. And so that was basically it. And based on that kind of comments that he made, we later had a call from Kennedy's team that they're also going to have a press conference to rebut the kind of comment that Wontumi has made. And so basically, they also came in to indicate that, well, if he wants to take legal action, they are daring him, he should go ahead with it. They are ready to face it. They are saying they have all the evidence to backing that. If Wontumi has to be prosecuted.
All right. So the walk that Kennedy's team organized on the 30th, how big was it, and how popular is Kennedy Agyapong in Ashanti region within the NPP?
Well, there were a lot of people who joined the walk, and in fact, in as much as you notice that many of the people who joined were NPP members, there were some other people who appear to be the neutrals, who actually feel that Ghana has gotten to a stage where we need someone as radical as Kennedy to actually lead the country. So there are some people who are beginning to really feel that, well, Kennedy is the right person to lead us. I remember there was this businesswoman I spoke to. She says that she basically lives in Italy, but she comes around, brings goods and all that. But based on what is happening in the country, the import duties and other things, he feels that he feels that Kennedy is the right person, and so he wants to join. So there were a lot of people. There are some who also feel that because of the current economic situation and the fact that Wontumi had, the fact that Kennedy has been making the point that he has created a lot of businesses and all that, he feels someone who can really come up with ideas to employ a lot of people is the person we need now. And so that's something that is actually catching up with many people. And it also appears that there are some people within the region, there is a lot of people within the region who, once Kennedy speaks, they listen to him a lot. If you recall, during primaries and even elections, within the Obuasi areas, within Adansia Sokwa, within UADBRC and other areas from that side of the Ashanti region towards the central region, almost every time when there's an election and Kennedy comes around and campaigns for a particular candidate, that person wins. So most of the time you find him campaigning for KC Hammond and the rest, and definitely the election actually goes the way of the person that he campaigns for. So he appears to have that kind of support within the region.
But what about Wontumi himself? We know that he retained the Ashanti Regional Chairmanship of the NPP, although he did have it was a tough race. And indeed, he did mention in the press conference that he had visited all the guys he defeated in the chairmanship race. Is there a sense in which his grip on NPP in Ashanti is loosening, or is Wontumi still the main man when it comes to Kumasi and Ashanti NPP?
Well, Wontumi has that kind of grip to some extent, but in recent times, there are some party faithfuls who are also trying to gang up against him. In fact, I remember during the August 26th election, there were some people who were trying to hoot him when he came to the Ashanti Regional Center. And so people were hooting at him and all that, and that's the party members. And even yesterday, there were some areas that we went to where we also realized that there are some delegates who are also trying to gang up against him. And so it looks like within the party, based on some pronouncement and the fact that he has openly supported some other people, that ahead of the NPP election, where he declared his support for the General Secretary aspirant at the time, that was John Boadu, when they were all supporting them. Some of the party members felt that, well, why are you going towards that way? You are declaring that, well, you're supporting him publicly and all that. And so some party members, those below him, some of them, as a polling station executives and other people, they don't appear to entirely agree with him on some of these stands, as in the kind of things that he does. And in fact, even when you talk to some of the executives, that even at the regional level, they appear not to agree with him on some of the decisions that he has been taking in recent times. Even in fact, yesterday after the press conference, there were some party people who, when you engage on a personal level, they were saying that indeed they even arranged that we're not going to talk about the Kennedy issue, but he talked about it and some of these things will affect the fortunes of the party. And so some people that's within the party, the key people, some of them are beginning to question some of his actions in recent times.
Finally, have any leading members of the party come out to condemn or call a truce. Have we had any past executive or some big person in the NPP come to say they should cease fire?
So far, we have not heard of anything like that. And so the supporters of the two groups keep attacking each other, and that has been it. And there hasn't been any formal approach. What we have been told is that some party executives have been trying to engage Wontumi in particular with respect to some of the comments that he has been making. But for it to come out openly, so far we haven't heard about that.
Thank you for your time. That was our Ashanti Regional Correspondent, Edward Opongmafo, reporting. Guys, this is very serious. MPP with two firebrands, both media owners, one clearly supporting Bawumia by Ashanti Regional Chairman based on the way he's talking, and from Kennedy's accusation of sort of lumping him and Dr. Bawumia together. I sort of took the trouble to listen to the full press conference of Wontumi, and as Edward said, he started on the tangent of, we are updating you on the the voter registration in Ashanti, and then by the time he finished, and then he entered Kennedy Agyapong and spoke directly to him. And knowing Kennedy, his people have also responded. I'm sure probably sometime today or somewhere you will hear him on a radio station responding to Wontumi as well. I mean, how did the MPP get here?
They should ask themselves that question. I'm sure the leadership of the party, Justin Kudia Frimpong, is it Kudia from Frimpong?
I think it's Justin
Frimpong. It's Justin Frimpong Kudia, Justin Frimpong Kudia, Stephen Intim, and the other executives of the party, and the president, who is the leader of the party, would be perhaps scratching their heads as to how they are in the news for this. But in the end, they have to fix their own problems,
But it's not. You should make it say their problem, but it's not a problem for the country. Like MPP, where they've got into, it's no longer their problem. If it is our problem as a country, right? Because this is the party in office.
I understand that,
right?
But the reason why, because the conversation is also very much linked with the idiosyncrasies of these two. Okay, and I don't really this morning want to get into a breakdown of the personalities of these two. People know who they are. The NPP would have known who these persons are for 2 or 3 decades. Everybody has watched the rise of Wontumi. People have marveled at how Wontumi rose to the heights that he rose in this MPP. There are those who have said the rise of Wontumi, the rise of Kennedy, shows the change in the face of what the MPP used to be. The party of the so-called elitist party, the party of intellectuals that has metamorphosing into something else. And these two are very clear manifestations of perhaps that change in the face of the party. Obviously, these are two persons. I've always told you there is a gap. There's a power gap in the NPP. Whether they want
is it leadership or
yes, whether they want to admit to it or not. You see, because here's the thing: you have a president who's exiting in the next year. He's not as powerful as he used to be. He might wield a lot of respect. He will say things. People will say, yeah.
People don't fear him anymore.
But people don't fear him.
His days are numbered.
His days are very numbered, and he knows it. And there are watchers who will tell you he's not all that concerned right now. He's focusing on his last days and the things that make him happy.
Some people say he's checked out.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who feel he's checked out. There's also that. So there is an ongoing battle by strong personalities. So you have Dr. Bawumia, who wants to be flag bearer. You have Kennedy Agyapong, who wants to be flag bearer. Very strong personality. You have Chairman Wontumi, who has carved a territory for himself, which happens to be perhaps the most important voting bloc for politics in this country. And he has turned himself into the overlord.
But where are the council of elders? Where are the big men
I'm getting
in the party who will usually come out and say, hey, this is not how to do it?
But that's the point I'm also making about the transition of the party from a party of intellectuals, perhaps to those who say it's become the party dominated by the size of your bank account. So the NPP used to have a lot of names who were not very rich, but who were very powerful
and influential and respected.
and very influential. You see, so the influence and respect was not aligned with how rich you were.
So your point is that the power shift to people like Kennedy Agyapong
It's based purely on
is a manifestation of the influence of money in our
of
politics.
course, because Kennedy Agyapong provides 200 pickups to the NPP. Who is going to stop him? The last election, he said he bought 200 pickups. He showed it. We saw the pickups being distributed. Who's going to stop him? Chairman Wontumi has spent a lot of his money buying all kinds of things for the party. Who's going to stop him? Because when the party is in need, and that's what they tell you, the people that they go to provide those needs are the ones who are fighting for their power. So you have the vice president, for instance, who's providing motorbicycles for the party people who need it in places. They have the resources.
Then isn't our politics doomed? Because if this is where the thing is going,
But it is quite clear that is where it has gotten to. So you have a party chairman, Stephen Intim, but
he's not a real power.
Let's be honest, Stephen Intim and Kennedy Agyapong,
Yeah.
he doesn't care about Stephen Intim.
Yeah.
Justin Frimpong Kodia and Kennedy Agyapong, he doesn't care about him. Justin and Wontumi, what are you talking about?
Yeah. So
You
the
see-
power is the position is there, but the people will
Yeah, you wield you hold the position, but the real players of the game are very different.
Wow.
You see, and because there's nobody to exert control over those
but let's
places.
go to is that the same in NDC? Because I think the NDC, their chairman and general secretary are pretty strong. If you look at what they did with the parliament votes,
Well, it's times and it
seems as I'm just contrasting because if you look
I don't
at,
even want to.
We shouldn't do that.
We'll get there.
no, because I want no hold on. I'm bringing that because I want to know whether this is MPP that is manifesting what it's
Yes,
MPP,
it is
or
MPP.
it's a sign of our general politics, or it's just MPP.
It is MPP we are talking about now.
So this is where MPP is.
That is where MPP is now. That is the period they've gone through. If you listen to, for instance, Mr. Chair Martin, who spoke about his confrontation with Darocha, for instance. I knew Darocha. Okay. And he wasn't the wealthiest.
Yeah.
But around at the time, who people claimed was
called
Mr.
his
Cash.
bluff. He called his
him
bluff.
and said, Master, who are you?
He said, what clout?
Alan K, in his interview now, is telling us, he told Darocha, said, hey, Darocha, when I was there, no.
Oh, but
But at that time, did we hear him say, hey, Darocha, when I was there, no?
I remember Patrick Ayum called Darocha and interview him on the matter. And then in the interview, Patrick, it was on Prime News. Patrick asked that, but if Alan leaves the MPP, he goes with his clout. And Darocha said, what clout? He can go.
Yes.
And he said it publicly. And so
in all these things, you just basically will hear if Justin wants to issue a statement or two, I'm sure they will look at it and throw it in the dustbin somewhere. Or
are you saying
Chairman
that
Team will look at it,
there is
throw it
nobody
somewhere.
in MPP who can rein these two in?
Bar the president who is exiting,
Wow.
and
also
you have
seems to have an interest
and
somehow.
basically, you see, and he's in a tight spot because if he speaks up now, one of the parties will tell you, Basa, you are protecting somebody. Allow me.
Wow.
You see, so this is where you would have needed the Hackmans and co to step up, because they have replaced the Darochas, the Harun Esekus, the Odoi Sykes, and the likes. That is who they have replaced.
So you're talking Hackman, also Ajiman, maybe our Safomafo. I don't know. I mean, we had Kwame Nabatels come out to speak after the exit of Alan, but even that was not.
When was the last time you heard of Mr. Battles?
Not
When was the
in
last time he spoke?
10 years, I haven't heard of him.
What is the measure of his influence now?
It's not-
He used to be quite influential in the party.
Right. It's not there anymore.
But what is the measure of his influence?
so
The party
who
has
is
moved
who
on.
is the most influential? So maybe Kufuor?
But he has other things to think
He
about.
doesn't meddle in these things.
No, he's always elevated himself to the elderly statesman. So
you're
they could call
you're
them.
basically saying that there is a battle for the soul of the MPP because there's a power vacuum in the party.
Oh, yes.
And the vacuum is being filled by even not necessarily elected
people. No.
Of course, Wontumi is elected, but I see where you're going with this. Wow.
Is there?
But the other question.
Hold on,
yeah.
I'm asking. Outside of Wontumi,
Yeah.
who's the most prominent regional chair you know?
Abronye this.
That's Bruno. And then who else? Let's go through.
I don't know.
Greater Accra is the standard waterman.
He doesn't even do, what's his name? Agoham, that's the name. He within the Accra context, we interview him every now and again, but he doesn't.
I'm talking. You know,
you're right. He's not. Agoham.
I'm not talking about the Accra.
What's his first name, Fred? Divine Agoham, Greater Accra. Voter, I don't know who the voter chair is. Central, I don't know who the central chair is. Western, I don't know who the chair is. Eastern,
I'm sure we call NPP members themselves. They will struggle to point out who these people are.
Eastern, I don't know. Northern chairman, I don't know.
So,
but chairman Wontumi is
but do you know? But is this just an NPP? Do you know who the Greater Accra chairman of NDC is? I think it's Ashimo. Okay, I think Ashimo and Agoham are probably on the same level.
No,
you don't think so? So who is the?
You see, I don't want us to do the comparison.
So okay, let's do it. So your argument is that NPP. Wontumi, even his stature now is almost like of all he's like the chairman of chairmen.
Yes, he's basically the PV of being of party.
So
chairman.
He owns the chair. He owns. You are saying basically in control of the NPP.
Well, if you look at how he's at the forefront of most things, are we not elevating him too much? Does it look like he's being elevated too much?
Well, he has media. The last time I went to their, to be fair, when I went to their Congress, I think the one in Cape Coast, most people who were there, I'm just giving you a question. When you go to a Congress, you notice that supporters aggregate.
Yes.
They aggregated around Wontumi and Kennedy when they were on air. Yes. So when Wontumi goes to your radio stand, like 100 people will come there. When Kennedy comes to your radio station, another 100 will come there. Those are the two people.
Since Wontumi emerged as a force in the NPP, where have you heard that Wontumi has been called to order before?
That's a good question. Never.
By who?
Nobody.
Who is calling Wontumi to order? Say, hey, Chairman Wontumi, don't say this. In fact, when the party needs to say something, and he's the one they put it in his mouth to say it, because people expect him to be able to say those things. Okay, so that fight for the soul, the way I see it, though, that fight for the heart and soul of the NPP is ongoing, to see who becomes the true leader of the party, not by title. People hold titles, yes, but as to whether they are the true leaders of the party,
just a final question.
That fight is ongoing.
Kennedy had to send a statement last night to sort of tidy up something he said was misquoted in relation to he's saying that the
looting.
Yes, the looting thing. Do you feel that could be the pressure of the backlash he may be getting from delegates? Or
this is a man, he's looking to contest an election. So he needs to be on the good side of the delegates one way or the other, because there's only a certain extent you can take your attack on the party system. So I am not surprised that he's trying to balance that check. You know,
is this what Alan saw that made him leave?
What did he see?
You've described a situation where you're saying the party has become basically controlled by those who have money. And don't forget, in my interview with Alan, I asked him a question which he sort of turned back to me. I asked him, say? Like, where are the people? He complained about many things. I said, okay, so has his complaint attracted any comment from any leading member? Then he flipped the question back to me and said, yes, have you heard anybody in NPP come to call any of these guys to order?
But under normal circumstances, he's supposed to be one of those people who can
but he's part of the race. He's trying to say that he's part of a race.
It does not matter.
And the disagreement was over the way they were organizing the Congress. So he was expecting other leaders, other voices to come.
When Kufuor was running for president, you think he didn't say things, people didn't say things about him? But the measure of the man in the party at the time, the measure of Nana Addo Akufo-Addo at the time, would reflect in how they treat you.
Wow. So the party has become...
It's not, the party is finding its own way. It's for the party to figure it out. It's for the party and its members to figure out how it ends up.
So from what you're saying, you don't expect a truce to be called by anybody between now and November 4. It's going to go until somebody wins.
Oh no, of course.
So it's when somebody wins.
Nobody's backing down.
Nobody's backing down.
No, but Kennedy has told you that he's on. He's a showdown.
He said an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Yeah, Dr. Baumia has told you he's not backing down in his own way. He's going at it. But just to wrap things up, I want to touch on the governor. You see, again, like most people, I was like, no, misquoted.
Yeah.
I was like, and most people I know were like, the governor of the Bank of Ghana,
did not say that.
these quotes cannot be attributed to him in 2023. In the year 2023, we cannot attribute these quotes where he's labeling members of parliament as hooligans, where he's undermining the power of protest and demonstrations to make a political point. It is his right to say he will not resign. That much is undoubted. It is clear.
You can say that.
You can say that. I will not resign. But what you cannot do is to say the rest of the things that he said. And I'm expecting that he comes back to apologize, honestly.
Yeah, honestly.
It is not something that he must let, nobody can force him, but he should not get to the point where people perceive him as being a bit arrogant. Because that is what he sounded like. And two, sounded a bit to me like somebody who does not understand democracy and governance.
What do you mean?
Bernard, if you understand democracy, this point doesn't come from this. What he said does not come out of your mouth at any point. If you know your job and how you have your job, the responsibilities that come with it, the state structure, you see, and maybe Ayaga made a point that perhaps my mind was drawn to it. The fact that there isn't too much of a state check on him perhaps has him thinking that
you're right.
he's some god in some corner.
That the fact that, unlike the finance minister who has to do everything through parliament, he doesn't seem to have that.
The current constitutional makeup that gives him his powers, that sets him up.
There's not much recourse to parliament.
But it does not insulate you from society.
Yeah.
And society, as you are a part of, is allowed to protest.
Yeah.
They were not throwing stones. They were not doing whatnots. It was a legitimate means of announcing their displeasure. So I expect an apology from him. If he decides not to, like I said, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's a pretty unfortunate thing to say that I do not think somebody of his standing would want that on his record without apologizing. He does not want that on his record.
Yeah.
You see, he does not want that on his record. That people who went to protest about how he has carried out his job and he thinks he's done well. Somebody says you've not done well and is telling you about his position. You're like, well, yeah, this is...
What do you think the minority will do?
It's up to them. They have their own systems. My interest is... My disappointment is with the fact that, like I said, like most people, I was taken aback that the governor of the Bank of Ghana...
He was speaking to central banker.
Talking to such a prominent platform, and this is what he had to say about this matter. I'm saying he's allowed to say so many things. He's allowed to make any kind of defense of his stewardship of the Bank of Ghana.
You don't describe the protesters.
But you do not do that.
You can't say a protest is unnecessary and that they were hitting the streets like hooligans.
You understand? And I do not want to say perhaps it's because of his... he's been a technocrat his entire professional life.
Yeah. From
1993, he entered the Bank of Ghana as a researcher, something, and he's risen all the way to the top. Main job. So his main job has been, so he hasn't really been in the
rough and tumble of
the
political.
Yeah, but still, he should be politically matured enough because he does have a political side, whether we like it or not.
Yeah.
Although he's not very open about it.
I'm sure this is not the last we would hear of
this.
No,
but the last we should hear of it is his apology.
If he would listen.
The last we should hear of it is his apology.
and see, this is interesting because this is not a press conference like MPC where the communication team of the BOG can say this is what you should say. So this is an interview. So this is actually what the man thinks.
Yeah.
Right. So which means that some of the things he's been saying in our press briefings may be
they are very
positions that the bank has put out.
Yes.
So this is actually what he thinks. Because this was an interview. And the people quoted it with quotation marks. So it's not like a press release or something. So it's quite interesting, Nathan.
Yeah, I completely agree with Godfrey. I was taken aback. First, when I saw it, I said, come on. I mean, I don't expect him to say that. I can say I disagree with the minority and all of that, but to describe them as hooligans, that's low down. That's not cool at all. It's not on. Like Godfrey said,
the minority in parliament have many channels to channel their grievances in civilized societies, not through demonstration in the streets as hooligans, quote unquote.
Okay, so is he saying that when people demonstrate, they are being uncivilized?
Bro,
the Constitution grants us the right to do so, and the minority respected every single line of the Constitution. They went to the police, their route was mapped out. They even on the day, they were urging people not to even misbehave, and they followed everything the police asked them to do. And yet, you grant an interview and call them hooligans. I wonder if he would have done it in this jurisdiction. But am I surprised? Not completely, because we see a lot of government officials not speaking to us here, but rather opening themselves up and being very nice and cozy with the international press. And I find that quite disappointing.
And the other point which I need to make is that maybe he also underestimates how bad the economy's mismanagement has affected people. You see, so it's not just a question of whether it is my fault, the finance ministry's fault. Collectively,
you need to know the effect of
yesterday, the gentleman I interviewed on dialysis said that, I asked him whether he was working. He said, he was working in a financial institution, but when the financial sector restructuring happened, he lost his job. There's been many decisions taken under this administration which has damaged people's lives.
Yes.
We're talking about haircuts,
DDEP,
domestic debt exchange, talking about financial institutions that collapse. All of that cumulatively have led to people being impoverished, right? So if you look at the effect on people's lives and then the poster he puts out,
it's like it's every day. It's normal for him.
It is. That's my point. It's like
it's
not even a minority issue.
No, that's what I'm saying.
It's actually about whether you are taking responsibility for the crisis that your leadership could not prevent. Because we're talking about July 2022 to September, where everything fell down. And then your debt exchange that led to people losing monies they had legitimately invested in financial institutions that are regulated. Okay? So I think that the points around the economy and its effect on people, duty bearers seem to think, or this governor seems to think that, well, I was forced to do it because the IMF said it was a precondition. I don't think that's enough. Because there are many tools you could have used to say, we don't think, because if somebody asks you for a debt treatment, you can say, based on our analysis, we don't think that this is right for the economy. You can even go to parliament in terms of lending to the executive. You can't say there's an limit. You can say, okay, the law says I can lend to you 5% of previous year's revenue. You can go to parliament and say, they are asking me for more money. What should I do? Can you give me the approval? That could have been done. So I really think that there's a complete misreading of the situation. And this kind of commentary, it's not so disappointing.
It's very, very,
so
sad
disappointing
and upsetting seeing
which also suggests that he's reading a different note from what we, the ordinary people, are reading. What ordinary people feel around the economy, maybe he's not feeling it.
But I'm saying, but like I'm saying, are you surprised? Look, in the aftermath of the Occupy Jolobi House, go on social, read things from people affiliated to the government, even people who are very close to the seat of power. Look at some of the things they said. The protest didn't have any impact. It was a calorie burning exercise. It was this and it was that. And I find,
but that one, the people can say it on their own. But this is a governor who is paid with taxpayers' money.
Yes, I'm saying that if you have even people who are lower down the food chain saying these things, it shouldn't surprise you that somebody higher up the food chain will actually grant an interview. Look at everything. Look at people 60 plus who are supposed to be home enjoying their retirement, picketing at the finance ministry. Look them in the eye and tell them that the people who have gone to protest are hooligans.
Is it like?
Or like whatever, like hooligans. Whatever it is, I think it's very wrong for the governor to have said that.
It's completely unfortunate. Somebody who's paid taxpayers' money. You can't refer to IMP.
Our money are taxed. The little tax that you.
I think he should. I think Godfrey is right. He should apologize for that statement and withdraw it in complete measure. In the meantime, somebody sent me the list of the NPP's regional chairmen.
Okay, mention the nation.
And you know what's funny? I don't know whether the fact that we don't know them is an indication of our own ignorance or it's a sign of the times. Because of the list of the 16, okay, Greater Accra is divine. Otu Agoham, him we know because we are in this region.
We're in the region. Yeah.
Ashanti Regional Chairman Bernard Winchibrisako, which is the reason for this whole discussion. Northeast is called Nuruddin Fusaini. Don't know him. If I see his picture, I don't know who he is. Upper East Region, Anthony Namu, same. Afro Region, Kwabena Owusu Setre, don't know him. Northern Region, Mohammed Adam Banti Masamba, I don't know him. Savannah Region, Idrisu Sulemana, no. Bono Region is the one we know, Kwame Bafo, aka Abronya DC, another media-made party chairman because he comes in the media a lot. Volta Region, Makafi Wanya, I'm not even sure I know him. Oti Region, Evans Yaudapa, no. Upper West Region, Sanbanye B. Kangberi, never heard of him. Bono East Region, Ibrahim Baba Bukari. Have you heard of him? No. Western North, Benjamin Ama. No. Eastern Region, Jeff Konedu Ado. Do you know him? Western Region, Francis Indedesia. Nope. Wow.